Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz continuing his rally cry for Washington to get its house in order. More than 100 CEOs signing his pledge to withhold political contributions until lawmakers stop what he calls partisan gridlock in Washington. And he joins us now from Seattle for an update. So it was 10 days ago that you really made this bold call. Who has signed on to this pledge, and what are they telling you?
Some of the leading CEOs in America, I think, shared my concern that we have a crisis of confidence in America, a crisis of leadership. In many ways, I think that goes to the fact that Congress and the administration did not reach the kind of debt ceiling deal that we had hoped for. And what we witnessed as part of that was, I think, a conclusion that America deserves better than this. And as a result of the letter I wrote, not only have I heard from top CEOs in America, but I think most importantly for me, I've heard from thousands of people across the country, people I've never met, who have shared with me their concern, their story, and have thanked us all for capturing a voice that is not being heard, and that is the people who are being left behind by the fact that people in Washington who took an oath to represent America and do their best is not doing what we sent them there to do. And I think what I'm trying to do, and I'm so thankful that the other CEOs have joined me, is send a powerful message to Washington that we do not want to embrace the status quo. We want to be respectful, and we want to really, I think, be civil in our concern and criticism. But we're begging you to please not only go back to work, but end the partisanship and represent the citizens of this country and do everything we can to remove the unbelievable fracturing of trust so that we can get the economy back again, start hiring, and remove the crisis of uncertainty.
Who are some of those executives that signed on board and that are in this with you for the long haul, if it takes that long?
Bill Campbell, the chairman of Intuit, Tim Armstrong, the chairman and CEO of AOL, Mickey Drexler, the CEO of J.Crew, Walter Robb, the CEO of Whole Foods, just to name a few. And I think we've got a cross-section of people from both parties, multiple different businesses, and I think this is just the beginning of what I think is going to be a groundswell of support to hold back contributions and at the same time to do everything we can not to wait for Washington but to stimulate the economy, because I think it can be something that's contagious in terms of us stimulating confidence back in the economy by starting to hire people, and I think trying to do everything we can within our own businesses to create growth and opportunity. And that is one thing: jobs in America. That is the only thing that matters right now, and that's the economy and the people who are being left behind.
The only thing that matters right now. It is just as critical a component of your pledge, and that is jobs. You were asking Fortune 100 CEOs and small business owners alike to pledge to create jobs. What do you want to see from them, and what specifics are these businesses, no matter what size, giving you, Howard, on the kind of hiring that they're willing to do?
You know, well, I think we've got to be realistic. We can't ask business leaders to hire people for the sake of hiring. But I think there's another component to this, and that is all of us are looking at our budgets and our year in terms of what's possible. And I think for many of us in America, there's about $1 trillion sitting on the balance sheets of public companies in America. And the reason it's sitting idly is because of the cloud of uncertainty that people do not want to invest in an environment where we're not sure what's going to happen. And what I'm encouraging people to do, if you're on the bubble of making these decisions, let's take the affirmative choice. Let's make the investment. Let's make the decision to stimulate the economy, and as a result of that, create jobs. And I can't speak for any individual CEO or company, but in the conversations that I'm having, there is a lot of dialogue about the opportunities we all have in our own businesses to make choices to invest back into the country and, most importantly, create incremental jobs. And that's what I'm trying to encourage people to do.
Finally, I'd just like to get your perspective, Howard, on how critical you think this moment is in American history. You've led Starbucks for decades. You've been a business leader for a long time. You've been through other recessions. But where does this stand in your book as the real need to take action? Where does this fall in America's history?
I honestly believe, and I don't think this is an overstatement, I think this is a really critical, fragile moment in our country's history. And when I think about the economy and the domestic agenda and the lack of leadership in Washington, I am concerned that if we do not recognize how mission critical this is to the country to solve these problems and really demonstrate leadership and really represent the people of this country who are being left behind, that the problems are going to become greater and there will be some unintended consequences as a result of it. And I would only hope that the people within the administration and in Congress understand the sense of urgency that is required to solve these problems and significantly represent America in a way that we deserve.
What unintended consequences do you fear when you look at the world from a truly global perspective? Your presence in China is huge. You are able to see the world from the eyes of business leaders outside of this country, right, and from other nations. So what are those unintended consequences?
Well, I think there's two very specific things. One is that whether you are a global enterprise or not, that we as a country are competing with other global enterprises. And we can't be in a position as a country to put ourselves in a disadvantage because our political system is not working. When the S&P downgraded America, they downgraded the balance sheet of America as well as their faith and confidence in our political system. That is a major blow to the equity of the brand of America and the trust and confidence that people have in what this country represents. In addition to that, I think when you have 42 of 50 states in America who have budget deficits and a number of states facing a real crisis in their ability to pay their bills and cuts in social services across the board, the gap that is going to be widened between the haves and the have-nots is not the America that I think we are proud of. And I think it is a fracturing of the humanity of America to widen that gap. And that is why we have to demonstrate leadership and, above all, a deep level of sensitivity and respect for the people who are being left behind. They're not worried about what's going on in Washington in terms of ideology. What they're worried about is the kind of leadership that will give them the hope and aspiration and bring back the American dream that they deserve.